What's up everyone, Zach Edward here. Great video on sidechaining today. I'm gonna teach you how to get the perfect sidechain shapes using some advanced techniques. You might know the tools we're gonna use between the compressors or volume shaping plugins like LFO tools, but I'm gonna really show you how to cater your sidechain to the specific trigger you're using. So let's go check it out. All right, so we're gonna take a look at 3 different sidechain tricks, techniques that are gonna step your game up significantly. Now, all 3 can be used in different scenarios, so that's why I wanna show you what your options are so you could use the correct one in the correct instance. So here's the rough loop we're gonna be working with. All right, now let's say I wanted to sidechain this using LFO tools. I want to show you a really cool trick to get the perfect sidechain shape and length. So what I've done is I've aligned the plugin to be the length of exactly 1 full beat. So you can see the start of this kick to the next kick, 1 beat, is actually the length of LFO tools. So now if I wanted to create a sidechain shape, I could just drag this out and have it basically go against what my kick was doing. Curve it up like this, and now you can see I'm steering clear of that tail on the kick. Perfectly done. Now, this trick works well for basically sub basses, because if you think about it, we're using this to duck around the full length of the kick drum, but this tail portion of the kick is the lowest part of the kick, the sub frequency. This bass line I have here is a combination though of lows, mids, and highs. It's not just sub. So yes, it's ducking the sub perfectly around the kick, but notice also the mids and highs are also buzzing with a very deep cut, and I may not want that heavy bounce, 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 bounce kind of vibe. I really want the mids and highs of this bass to probably only duck around the mids and highs of the kick, right? The frequencies of the kick that my bass is competing with in the mids and highs isn't this long. The mids and highs of a kick drum are much shorter. So this trick works really well for sub bass. All right, well, how would we solve this then? How can we get our mids and highs to sidechain a little bit quicker while keeping our low end of this bass around the kick that we had? Well, for this, let's go to the next plugin, and we're gonna use Volume Shaper made by Cable Guys. Another very similar sidechain plugin like LFO tools where you could shape the envelope, but with this one, they give you a multi-band feature. So for example, I could split my bass signal now into up to 3 bands. I'm gonna do 2. I'm gonna do a low band and a mid band. What we'll do is on the low band, we're gonna have that same deep sidechain, but on the higher frequencies, we're gonna have a much quicker one. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna align the kick drums to be the exact length of Volume Shaper. It's pretty good right there. The beginning of this kick is at the end of Volume Shaper. The start of this kick is at the beginning. So let's first click on the low band, and with this one, I want to shape it around the low part of the kick, which is that tail. So now, if I solo these frequencies of my bass, you can see I could set the frequencies that are going to follow this shape. So I'm just going to do those low frequencies that will duck around the low part of the kick. Now on my next band, if I solo it, you'll hear these are all the mids and highs. Now, I don't need these to duck around the full kick. I just need them to duck around the mids and highs of the kick, which is more up here. So I could use a faster shape. Now if I put the 2 together, so listen to the difference between Volume Shaper and LFO tools. So you notice the buzzing part of that saw wave, the mids and highs, they're much quicker on this one. It makes the bass line drive harder, but we see that they are still ducking around the kick, the part of the kick we need to duck around, and my sub is actually ducking just like LFO Tools was. But this sidechain shape hugs my kick a lot better than LFO Tools because I was able to split the frequencies. The high parts of my bass only need to duck around the high parts of the kick. The low parts of my bass need to duck around the low parts of my kick. So that's a really cool trick you can use for sounds that have a lot of frequency space. Split up those frequencies and you could have different sidechain lengths to duck around the different parts of the kick. And always remember you can align it if you're using a basic 4-to-the-floor pattern. You could align your sidechain plugin with the length of one beat from kick to kick. One last tip I want to show you with sidechain is, let's say you're using the old-fashioned way with a compressor and you're actually sidechaining to the kick drum. Now, there are tricks you could use, ghost triggers, this and that. Let's say though I was sidechaining to my kick and I wanted my signal to duck around this kick. So I'm going to increase the ratio, very fast attack because we want it to duck the split second our kick drum hits. So notice how deep this duck is, and I really don't have control over it. That's as fast as my release goes. So the only thing I could do is slow this down. I can't get any faster than this. I can't get my signal to pump up any quicker because my release is already as fast as it can go. The reason being is my trigger right now is the full length of the kick drum. I could actually fix that by using this little EQ section and filtering out all the low end of the kick. Now what that's going to do is, if you visualize it, if I get rid of this low end of the kick, it's actually going to make my trigger look more like this. Something that's very short, and now I have more room to work with when I want to pump my sound back up around that kick. So for example, watch what happens to the trigger in the background here when I begin to remove the low frequency. So it turns from this really fat long kick to a much thinner version. So watch if we get rid of all the low end. Look how quick now my 1 millisecond release pumps back up. Versus if I turn this off. So that's a huge difference. Now I can shape how my sidechain comes back up and pumps into the mix using my release. So take advantage of this EQ feature to get a shorter version of your kick drum. When you use a sidechain trigger, you want the shortest possible trigger. That way you actually have space to bring that sidechain pump back up, right? In the original version without this, our kick is so long that we really don't have any space to control how our sidechain pumps back up. Even at the fastest possible setting, it's still such a deep pump because the kick is so loud and so long. So you can shorten that trigger within your sidechain and use the same kick. You don't have to have a ghost, literally by just filtering out the low end. And by doing that, you're actually taking away the tail of the kick, and now you're just left with this beginning click, the high frequency of the kick. So that will even give you more control over your sidechain using a regular compressor. So utilize these 3 tips in their proper context, and you're gonna get a much, much tighter mix and tighter side chains. Nothing's worse than having your sounds just like aimlessly pump around nothing when they don't have to be. You can use a little more precision, and I wouldn't even call these necessarily advanced techniques, just a little more precision to really shape your sounds around the corresponding frequencies of your kick or of your trigger. So give this a shot. This stuff works in all the DAWs. All the compressors basically even give you this little EQ section. So you can use this from FL Studio to Logic and so forth. Give it a shot, and hopefully this will help your mixes in the future. If you like this, be sure to subscribe. We have plenty more videos coming, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you in the next video.